Ever wonder how the absolute deadliest conflict in human history could possibly lead to our greatest hope for peace? Well, today we're going to unpack that exact story. The direct line from the total devastation of World War II to the creation of the United Nations. So to really get this, we have to rewind, not to the start of a war, but to the end of one, because the peace treaty that was supposed to end all wars actually had the seeds of the next one buried inside it. This quote right here from Hitler, it's basically the sound of that fragile peace starting to crack. You have to picture it. After World War I, the world was just a mess. Economies were in ruins, people had totally lost faith in the old systems, and empires were crumbling. It created this huge power vacuum, a perfect storm for some really radical and, frankly, dangerous new ideas to grab hold. Let's break this down. For Germany, the Treaty of Versailles wasn't just a peace deal. It was a national shaming. I mean, imagine being told you have to take all the blame, pay a debt so massive it will crush your economy for decades, and just give up huge chunks of your own country. You can see how this would create this deep, simmering anger, right? It was only a matter of time before someone came along to exploit it. Okay, so to try and keep this fragile peace, the world created the League of Nations, a really noble idea for everyone to work together. But here's the kicker. It had a fatal flaw. It had no real power. It had no teeth. So when aggressive countries started breaking the rules, the League could do little more than write a strongly worded letter. It could talk the talk, but it absolutely could not walk the walk. So what happens when you have a powerless world police and pretty much everyone is broke and desperate? Well, the stage is officially set. New, dangerous ideologies started popping up, promising to bring back national glory, and of course, find someone else to blame for all the problems. And first up, in Italy, you get fascism. Benito Mussolini's whole pitch was about bringing back the glory of the ancient Roman Empire. His message was super simple. The state is everything, the individual is nothing, and we're going to restore our pride through sheer strength and conquest. Then you look over at Germany, and Adolf Hitler takes that same idea and twists it into something even more sinister. Nazism wasn't just about a powerful state. It was built on this disgusting so-called scientific ideology of racial purity. The whole goal was to purify the German race, and we all know the absolute horror that led to. And these ideas didn't stay ideas for long. Italy, Germany, and Japan teamed up to form the Axis powers. Now, they all wanted slightly different things. One wanted to rebuild an empire, another wanted a master race, a third wanted to dominate Asia. But they all agreed on one thing: tear down the old rules and take what you want by force. But you know, the real final nail in the coffin of world peace? The Great Depression. The Wall Street crash of '29 didn't just stay in America. It sent the entire global economy into a nosedive. And when people are desperate, when they feel like they have nothing to lose, the radical promises of dictators start to sound, well, pretty appealing. This timeline right here just shows you how fast everything went downhill, right up to the invasion of Poland in 1939. The war that followed was, without a doubt, the deadliest in human history. But, and this is the incredible part, out of all that ash and ruin came this powerful global feeling that we can never, ever let this happen again. I want you to just look at this number for a second. $350 billion. And that was just the direct military cost. It's a figure so huge, it's almost meaningless. And it doesn't even begin to account for the cities turned to rubble, the shattered economies, and of course the millions and millions of lives lost. Yeah, looking at this level of devastation, the world's leaders were all thinking the same thing. Okay, the League of Nations, total failure. It was obvious they needed something new. Something with actual muscle, and a global commitment to succeed where the League had so spectacularly failed. So where do you even start building a better world? Well, a lot of the core ideas came from the US president at the time, Franklin D. Roosevelt. He laid out this vision for what he called the 4 freedoms. And this wasn't just about preventing war. It was about the fundamental rights that every single person on Earth deserves. This became like the moral compass for what came next. And incredibly, it happened fast. Just a few months after the war officially ended in 1945, 51 founding nations came together and created the United Nations. Its mission was crystal clear: maintain international peace and security and get nations to actually cooperate with each other. Okay, so they created the UN, but how did they actually build it? And more importantly, how did they design it to avoid all the traps that made the League of Nations fall apart? The whole thing is built around these 6 main parts, or organs, and it was a really smart design to split up all of its huge responsibilities. You've got one for debating global issues, another for security and deploying peacekeepers, another for legal disputes, and another for coordinating humanitarian aid. You get the idea. First up, you've got the General Assembly. The easiest way to think of it is as a giant global town hall. Every member country, from the tiniest island nation to the biggest superpower, gets a seat and a vote. This is the UN's big public square, the place for debating the world's most pressing issues. But, and this is a huge but, the real power, the real muscle, lies in the Security Council. Now, it has 15 members, but the ones that really matter are the 5 permanent ones: the US, the UK, France, Russia, and China. Why? Because they each hold the power of veto. That means any one of them can single-handedly block a resolution. It was kind of a pragmatic deal to make sure the big powers stayed in the game, but man, has it been a source of gridlock and controversy ever since. You know, it's easy to think of the UN as just a bunch of people in suits arguing in New York, but that's not even half the story. Its real-world impact, the stuff that actually changes lives, happens through this huge network of specialized agencies. When you hear about global vaccination campaigns, that's the World Health Organization. When you see aid getting to kids in crisis zones, that's UNICEF. Protecting ancient historical sites, that's UNESCO. This is the UN on the ground, doing the incredibly hard work of building a better world. So, all of this leaves us with one big question, right? The UN was born from total catastrophe with this incredibly ambitious dream of universal brotherhood. Now, over 75 years later, it's faced countless challenges, it has its critics, and it has been at the center of huge controversies. And yet, it's still here. So, how do you think it's doing? How close are we, really, to reaching that original lofty goal? That's something to think about.